Welcome to the FML podcast, the podcast on a mission to uncover actionable insights, explore the latest trends, and to catalyze your fintech's growth. Join Growth Gorilla's founder and managing director, Shamir Sajdev, and some of fintech's hardest hitting marketers and leaders.
Welcome everyone to today's episode of the FML podcast. Today we're joined by Michael Stroev, COO and Head of Product at Nebeus. Michael, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Do you want to take everybody through your journey so far and tell them a little bit more about yourself?
My name is Michael Stroev, and I'm currently the COO and Head of Product at Nebeus. Nebeus is a financial app for crypto hodlers. Although our journey started a little bit differently, and we're originally a crypto-backed lending app and startup, we allowed essentially people to use their cryptocurrencies to get loans. We recently went through a substantial upgrade, and we became the financial app for crypto hodlers. What that means is right now we're creating a full bridge between finance and crypto, meaning that every single user who opens a Nebeus account actually gets a dedicated IBAN account associated with them. So like any traditional bank. And right now you can use Nebeus just like you would your traditional bank. You can receive a salary onto Nebeus. You can pay people through Nebeus. You can have companies and basically sports gyms and all of that stuff do direct debits from Nebeus at the same time as having that connected to your crypto account all within the same app. So you can send funds directly to your crypto account, start investing and accessing a whole ecosystem of cryptocurrencies. And all of that, vice versa. You can receive cryptocurrencies. Basically, we'll give a good example. If you're a trader on Binance or Kraken or anything of that, you have one big problem. It's always like if you want to sell your cryptocurrencies and cash out, what do? You usually have to make a very complicated bank transfer that takes a long time, to 1 or 2, 5 business days. Depending on the sum of money, it can actually be longer. The bank can ask for proof of funds, source of funds, and all these things. Or the transactions can just be rejected altogether. Now you don't need to anymore. You can send those funds to Nebeus, receive them, convert them to fiat, send them to your finance section, basically the money account, your IBAN account on Nebeus, and start transacting, paying, sending third parties on the spot. And we're releasing a debit and credit card that is coming in the next 1.5 months, 2 months.
I also read that you've recently signed a partnership with
Modular. Yeah, so that's exactly that. So basically everything that I just talked about, that finance side of Nebeus, comes thanks to our partnership with Modular Finance. It's a partnership that we've been working on for the past year and a half, I would say. It was a very lengthy and complicated process, and we literally just finalized it and released the product 3 weeks ago. And we made this significant upgrade thanks to Modular.
Just before I clicked the record button, but we were sort of talking about the crypto space as it stands at the moment. Obviously, it's been a little bit more down than up. How has that impacted the crypto space? Has it, created a lack of trust in the sector? How do you think that will impact Nebeus in the medium to long term?
So in the whole space, yes, there is a kind of, let's say, mistrust. A lot of people don't know what's happening. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? There were multiple events, black swan events that happened that basically caused a lot of people to panic. A lot of traders sold their cryptocurrencies or have just switched them to stable coins and are right now just sitting and watching and waiting to see what's going to happen. At the same time, you do have positive events that are happening, such as the Ethereum 2.0 merge, right, which is planned for, I believe, September 15th, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a positive news, and that's been bringing the market all the way up. Not all the way up, but significantly back up to some levels like 5 months ago. But it's still wobbly, up and down, up and down, up and down. For Nebeus, everything has been pretty smooth. We haven't seen people leave Nebeus. Our users ended up being very loyal to Nebeus. We've actually seen deposits on Nebeus increase. But at the same time, this is also due to the fact that we've in parallel been going through a lot of significant upgrades. And the first one I already mentioned, right, it's the money accounts that became available on Nebeus. So basically we transformed into that financial app for crypto hodlers. But it's also the fact that we became regulated by the Bank of Spain. And this is also news that we received approximately a month ago now. We are the 20th company to have officially received the cryptocurrency registration in Spain. And we are only one out of two companies in Spain authorized by the Bank of Spain to be cryptocurrency custodians. So it's us and Binance right now. So all of that together, those two uses for Nebeus has kind of, let's say, paved the way for 2023, and we look forward to stellar growth.
That's quite an accolade to obviously be one of only two companies regulated by the Bank of Spain. The kind of question that sort of knocks around in my mind, obviously, is that Bitcoin in crypto was all about being sort of decentralized. But as we sort of move towards becoming more regulated, that kind of centralization is happening. Do you think that's moving against, I suppose, the ethos of crypto, or do you think that's more about crypto becoming more mainstream?
I think it's the natural flow in which this market should go, right? This market needs regulation. The original complete decentralization has a space, a place to be, and will always be there. But for a lot of, let's say, companies and for cryptocurrencies to become more mainstream, regulation needs to happen. And this concerns not just users, right? So it's regulation for users so that users know how to use platforms and who to use and how to use them, etc., to become educated. But it's also for platforms such as ourselves to know how to operate, to know how to serve customers, to know what to do in an event of an emergency, in an event of fraud, in an event of something else. This industry needs regulation as a whole. Again, it's a great example of something that happened recently is the Terra blockchain crash. A lot of people lost millions, billions of dollars of stablecoins, right? This, again, put a lot of light on stablecoins, and right now, stablecoins are being analyzed, and people are starting to think, how can we regulate stablecoins? So as not to have the same effect, that basically the same result that happened with the Terra blockchain. This needs to be avoided, and so this industry, to some extent, needs to become centralized, regulated. But that being said, there will always be a decentralized aspect of it.
With crypto sort of moving more mainstream, where do you see the particular use cases for crypto that fiat is not meeting or servicing the needs of an individual or a business?
Here, I'm going to revert back to, let's say, the original, Bitcoin concept. It's around the ownership of the actual asset. For me and for a lot of users, cryptocurrency users, what crypto gives is it gives them full and complete ownership of the asset, especially in a decentralized form. So if, let's say, I have Bitcoins and I hold them on my Ledger wallet, they're mine. That's it. Like, as long as they're there, I know that a traditional bank, an equivalent, will not be using that cryptocurrency because it's held on my wallet. So I think that is one big use case, and that's why a lot of people have, let's say, converted and switched to cryptocurrencies. Second, and this was also part of the original, let's say, Bitcoin idea, is like long distance transfers and remittances. Definitely there's a place for it. It is going to be developed. It's still undeveloped. A lot of countries, like let's say Latin America, are trying to tap into cryptocurrencies, and basically one of the use case, like drivers of cryptocurrencies, is actually remittances of people switching to cryptocurrencies because their local currencies aren't strong enough and they want to send money to their loved ones that live abroad, and they're using cryptocurrencies. The Ukrainian war gave us a huge and significant push to stablecoins because people in Ukraine started buying stablecoins instantaneously because that was the only way that they could remove the money from the banks and basically put it in their pockets and leave the country. The same thing was happening in Russia. When the war started, drove cryptocurrency prices up, even though the bear market had just started and everything was dropping. So it kind of like, again, no one knew what was happening in the market. On one hand, everything is crashing, and then at the same time, everything is going up. Why? And again, like up and down roller coasters.
All great reasons. And yeah, I think, just talking about Latin America and sort of some sort of countries. Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously, we're worried about 10% inflation here in the UK, but I think some of these countries, inflation is kind of through the roof, really, isn't it? So actually holding money in crypto is less of a risk than holding local currency.
And I can say the same thing about many, let's say, countries here on our side of the world that are doing the same thing. They're buying, again, primarily stable coins, right? People who do not want to take risks buy stable coins and keep their funds in stable coins just because, again, they don't want to be hit by that inflation and they want something that's more stable. And they just simply don't have access to the US dollar or the euro in the countries in which they are.
Switching streams a little bit, it's just one I kind of want to go back on one of the points that you mentioned was that obviously during this sort of bear market that we're seeing in crypto, I suppose my first question is this a bear market, or has the frost just come off the top and actually we're at more realistic levels? And I suppose secondly, you mentioned obviously that you hadn't really lost any customers during this period, which is obviously in quite a stark difference to Binance, Crypto.com and Coinbase, which have lost customers. You mentioned obviously that is down to obviously you adding new features, but do you think that's also down to the fact that you are regulated by the Bank of Spain? Do you think that's more down to the reason why you've held on to your customers, as opposed to and your customers actually using it for tangible reasons, as opposed to perhaps Coinbase or Crypto.com that they're using for more speculative purposes?
No, I'm going to answer that question differently. I think it's because we were just more niche. Our original positioning before we made this upgrade to become the financial app for hodlers was crypto-backed loans. So people were coming to Nebeus because they wanted to get crypto-backed loans. At the same time, we made our app so easy to use and user-friendly that people started using Nebeus, and actually we had a lot of people that came not for loans. So I think it's a point of us being more niche and smaller. Coinbase are just enormous, gigantic, and they're just a trading platform at the end of the day. You go to Coinbase if you basically are super new to crypto, don't know what blockchain is, you have heard of it, you're thinking FOMO, I don't want to miss out on this, I need to buy because like my friends are earning money and I'm not. Where do I buy? You Google it, first thing you're going to find is probably going to be Coinbase. You don't know what difference, what the fee differences are between the platforms, but you don't care, you sign up and you use Coinbase. So those are the companies that are being affected, right? Because ultimately those like investors, like new investors who don't know what cryptocurrencies are the ones who are panicking and are essentially now being like, okay, wait. Maybe this was a bad idea. I shouldn't have listened to my friends. I should have done some research. And now they're selling their cryptocurrencies, sending the money back to their bank accounts and bailing. That's it. So that's the biggest difference between, let's say, a mainstream trading platform and us, because we were just simply more niche, had our own target. And right now we have all this new fantastic news, which is helping us acquire new users and grow.
So let's talk a little bit more about sort of product and marketing in that case then. You mentioned that your product is the user experience is one of the main reasons why why users are coming across to you. Could you kind of take me through the process that you kind of went behind sort of creating UX, a frictionless experience, and how have you continued to go, move on and optimize that to improve the product on an ongoing basis?
We have a very strong design team. I'll start with that. If you have a very strong design team and great UX minds that work together, you're going to have good user experience. But then obviously you kind of, let's say, roll something out and you constantly need to improve it. So obviously our, let's say, talented team builds it, rolls it out, and then we continually improve the product by analyzing how our users use it and basically making changes where necessary to improve and increase the user experience and make everything faster, smoother, more convenient, more instant, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of teams. It's a combination of data. And it's just a combination of various teams on the front end and back end and design working together in sync at Nebeus.
That approach to user testing and making those improvements, do you take a fairly structured approach to that in terms of are you really sort of running surveys, getting feedback from users, or is it a little bit more ad hoc or what sort of cadence you run?
It's both, I would say, but it's primarily ad hoc. It's really when we need it, how we need it. We still are a small team, to be honest, at Nebeus. We're not a huge company of, let's say, thousands of people. I think the full team right now at Nebeus is just maybe over 35 people. So we're not that big. So we do have, let's say, a lot of processes happening simultaneously, and we need to do things sometimes ad hoc, right? Because if we have, let's say, structures and, let's say, things that are in place, people basically need to know what they're doing, when they're doing, and we need to basically spread out our efforts evenly and equally so that we're achieving and growing, and we can't, let's say, focus too much on one thing or another. So it's going to be more geared and leaned towards the ad hoc approach.
How are you sort of prioritizing development of, say, product features and things like areas of the customer journey? And how do you know what you're going to work on and what takes precedent in your to-do list?
Our ethos has always been bridge crypto and cash. We look how people are using Nebeus. We see market trends, and based off of that, we make decisions of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We know where we want to go, and we're taking different steps to basically get there. It's very much just like knowing the market, knowing the industry, knowing the trends in both crypto and fintech, seeing what other competitors are doing, trying to be different than them, and just navigating that landscape at the same time as listening to customers and basically using data.
Obviously, advertising and acquiring clients in the crypto space is notoriously difficult. There's restrictions across Google in terms of what you can and can't do. There's restrictions across Facebook. Even Twitter has its restrictions to a degree. What's been your sort of main growth driver or your channel for acquisition that you found has been most successful for Nebeus?
Like I push my teams to their limits sometimes of what we're doing because we need to do multiple initiatives at the same time, and we're constantly experimenting and trying to find something new. I'm well aware of the restrictions on all these platforms. Funny story that I can share. We became regulated by the Bank of Spain, and Facebook obviously only allows advertising, cryptocurrency advertising from companies that are regulated by an entity, right? So we became regulated, and in my mind was like, yes, finally, we're going to be able to advertise on Facebook. We're not going to get any more blocks. That's going to be fantastic. I submit my appeal to basically have our account listed as an approved account and regulated by the Bank of Spain. Guess what? The Spanish country is not on the list of accepted cryptocurrency regulators, just but by Facebook. Literally, nearly every single country in Europe is there except for Spain. Fantastic. So back in the same boat.
Facebook's still a bit of a no-go for you in that case.
We still use it, but again, it's like we need to be careful of how we say it, what we say and how we say it. It's like ultimately, you can do that tactic in many places. Like, for example, we can advertise on the fintech side of Nebeus without a problem in many platforms. We can advertise the fintech side of Nebeus on Google without a problem. We can do Google ads, even like Google search ads for landing pages, but they have to have zero crypto-related material on them. I once was trying to put a landing page for, let's say, Google search advertising, and it got flagged because in the very, let's say, small bottom corner, we had a Bitcoin sign, and then there was actually like a creative drawing of a Bitcoin coin somewhere at the bottom, very small. They're like, that's a Bitcoin, you need to remove it. Okay, fine. So they're very rigorous on what you can do and what you cannot do. But again, there's a lot still that you can do.
Have you ventured down the TikTok or influencer path to try and acquire customers yet?
So yes, we're constantly exploring and trying to find good influencers that are going to basically give us the users that we need, right, that we're looking for, and that are ultimately also going to allow users to find us, right? So we're constantly exploring that. So if there are any influencers watching this, please reach out to my marketing team. We're looking for you. In terms of affiliates, we also run a lot of affiliate programs, and we also do a lot of affiliate programs with influencers. So again, but that's a continuous process.
Has there been any one sort of single initiative that changed the game or gave you a step change in terms of your acquisition?
There have been, but to be honest, I can't reveal them on this podcast. But there have been multiple. Obviously, if we were constantly testing and hypothesizing but not finding the sweet spot, well, we wouldn't be where we are. So obviously, we test, hypothesize, find some sweet spots, cancel others out. The ones that are successful we keep, but we still continuously develop and try and find new things. You mentioned, like you asked about TikTok. We haven't tried that. We are thinking of that. We are thinking about TikTok strategies. We are thinking about Reddit strategies. But to be honest, again, as I said before, we're not a huge team, and every single social media channel bears a cost. And that's a cost of creating content. That's a cost of actually putting someone on my team to work on that content and on that channel. And it's time. And time is money. So basically, we need to really, first of all, focus on the things that we're focusing on, get them perfect, and then start testing only when we can start testing, when we can afford to start testing. And new social media channels are very, very difficult, and they require so much of that time and money that I just mentioned. That, like, kind of, let's say we'll get there. We'll definitely start testing, but a little bit later.
Have you determined which channels to prioritize? Is it based upon, say, audience size or intent? Or
when you say channels, do you mean social media channels?
Yeah, social media channels or individual channels. All platforms might be a better description.
First of all, it's based on general knowledge of where the cryptocurrency space is at. So cryptocurrency space is primarily crypto Twitter, and then it's going to be Telegram. Those two channels are obviously strong. Then you have Instagram. Instagram has a very specific audience. Then LinkedIn has its own audience and its own, let's say, target of how we use it and how it should be used. Facebook is just Facebook. Our social media channels are very now split into different categories, and basically every single channel has its own tone of voice. Our Instagram is targeting people who are new to cryptocurrencies and basically giving them information that is like, let's put it for newbies, kind of like people who are just like arriving and want to learn about crypto blockchain at the very, let's say, like entry level. Our LinkedIn is going to be more general communication, sharing of our blog, and specifically primarily we use it for recruiting. Our blog is something where we give a lot of detailed articles on the cryptocurrency space, on coin analysis, on things that are happening in the market, et cetera, et cetera. So like if people who are more advanced in cryptocurrencies want to get like in-depth information, our blog is definitely the place to be. We also have our newsletters. It's basically similarly very in-depth. We have a weekly newsletter recap that we send to all of our users, informing them of everything that has happened in the market in the past week. We have a monthly general recap that we send to users of, let's say, the biggest events that happen in crypto. So it's basically we're sharing useful information, not only about Nebeus, but about the market in general. And Twitter is used primarily for company communication, company messaging. Like I communicate like things that happen on Nebeus, like important information, not using Twitter. So yeah, basically every single channel that we have has its own tone of voice, its own messaging. And if you go onto our homepage actually and scroll all the way down, we have a description right now of that. And we're trying to, let's say, navigate our users to the right social media network so that they know that, okay, so I'm looking for this, I should probably go to the blog. I'm looking for this type of info, I should probably go to Instagram.
You talk about education and providing that education. How important do you think that has been to attracting users and retaining users?
Very, very important. It's the most important aspect in cryptocurrency. The biggest blocker to entry into the crypto space is education. Simply because, as I already mentioned, right, before I gave the example of people going into Coinbase or something because of FOMO, right? So FOMO is a huge driver, fear of missing out. Something happens, wow, prices are increasing, my friend just made thousands of dollars and euros or pounds. What's happening? I want to do the same. They go in and they start investing, then they lose the money or whatever. A lot of people simply just don't go into crypto because of the lack of understanding what a cryptocurrency is and the lack of understanding of the underlying technology, which is ultimately the most important thing behind cryptocurrency, which is blockchain. So for us, it's super important to educate our users because we see that to be the main driver of new users onto our platform. And essentially our goal as a company is also to mainstream cryptocurrencies, right? And if we want to achieve that, we need to educate users.
I mean, I've spoken to a couple of CEOs and marketers at various sort of crypto platforms of varying services. It feels like across the board, education is a major priority for all of them. And I think also for the industry as a whole, it's just a common goal towards educating retail users, then it helps elevate the entire industry.
A lot of people compare this technology and this like period of life to like the birth of the internet, right? And I've seen multiple reports talking about that. I've recently seen a report by the Boston Consulting Group predicting that there will be 1 billion cryptocurrency users by 2030. And it was comparing that growth simultaneously to the growth of the internet and how internet was being adopted by people. And again, internet was being adopted by people at the same speed as cryptocurrencies are. And it was linked very closely with education.
That's incredibly interesting. I will certainly source that paper and have a read.
I can share files with you.
Yeah, if you could do, actually, yeah, it'd be great. Actually, I think if you share it across to me and then we'll add it into the show notes. So
good.
On the topic of education and driving crypto into the mainstream, that kind of brings me on to the recent sort of B2B product launch. Do you want to take us through that product, the benefits, obviously, not just to the business, but also to the end user as well?
Our B2B product, well, at least one of them, and this has been, let's say, quite successful since it launched, and it launched very organically. We weren't actually planning on launching it. It launched just because we were seeing demand for it. People were coming to see us and asking for the product. And so we kind of, let's say, rolled it out to one customer, and then we started, let's say, rolling out to more people, and now it's officially launched. It's essentially a wallet as a service feature. That's how I call it. Kind of like software as a service, but wallet as a service. Another way to call it is embedded crypto. So it's essentially what we do is we allow third-party apps, right, to plug in Nebeus services to offer to their users. So say we have a customer who is a financial app somewhere in the UK or in Europe that doesn't have anything to do with crypto, but they want access to cryptocurrencies. Instead of developing those services from scratch themselves, which is costly and lengthy, they come to see Nebeus and they plug in basically Nebeus into their financial app and allow their users to access cryptocurrencies and any service that exists on Nebeus. It's basically wallets, it's holding, sending, receiving cryptocurrencies, it's exchanging, it's getting loans, it's accessing our earning products to earn rewards on holding cryptocurrencies, etc., etc.
I was going to say that's going to be I suppose a big game changer from an acquisition perspective from your side, because you're not just going direct, obviously, to market to acquire users. Mm-hmm. You're in a position where you're partnering up and leveraging your partners to obviously acquire users onto your platform.
Exactly. It opens up a lot of, let's say, revenue and monetization channels for us, new user acquisition channels for us. Although, again, when people plug in Nebeus, they can choose to have it, let's say, completely white labeled in their design. So the end user won't actually know that they're using Nebeus, but we will see the numbers because ultimately the numbers are going to be coming onto Nebeus because they're leveraging our infrastructure. Beyond,
the B2B proposition and all that we've discussed, what's on the horizon for Nebeus over the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
Well, 3 to 5 years. Well, that's a big question. I was gonna say when you ask what's on the horizon for Nebeus, I was gonna say we are on the horizon already. Because let's say in the past month we've achieved and launched everything that we've kind of worked to launch and achieve in the past year and a half. So where we are right now is essentially that horizon. I recently was in an interview with our partners, Modular Finance, and one of the questions that they asked me, and this was more about them, what if Modular was a genie, what would you ask Modular? What would your wish be? And my answer was, well, actually, it's we already asked it and we already got it. What we have right now is exactly what we always wanted to have. It's exactly the products and service that we always wanted to offer to our users. So yeah, right now we're in a very sweet spot. I probably won't be able to answer you in 3, 4, 5 years, because in crypto terms, that's huge. In 1 year, everything just completely changes. But on the short, let's say, on the short term runway, what we have planned is, well, first of all, is our virtual Visa cards for payment directly from Nebeus. So that's going to be a huge addition to basically our offering. Right now, yeah, you have your own IBAN. You can already, let's say, make payments, send to third parties, add direct debits to that IBAN account. But as soon as you have that card where you'll be able to completely go into a cafe and buy coffee, that's going to be gold. That's really going to let's say, complete that financial side of Nebeus. In addition to all that, we're also going to have the option to switch that card from debit to credit. So building on our crypto-backed lending background, we're going to transform that crypto-backed lending product, turn it into a credit product. So basically people will be able to go in, select their cryptocurrencies that they have on Nebeus that they want to use as collateral towards a credit line, and they'll have an automated credit line basically given to their credit card, and they'll be able to start transacting directly on Nebeus. So that's that. Second thing that we plan to launch, and this is more towards 2023, we plan to launch multi-IBANs for our users. Right now, when you open up a Nebeus Money account, you get an Irish IBAN associated with it. So you have your Irish IBAN. But we want to add the functionality for users opening up multi-country IBAN. So if you want a French IBAN, you can open up that French IBAN. If you want a Spanish IBAN, you'll be able to open up a Spanish IBAN. So ultimately on Nebeus, you'll be able to have 3, 4, 5, 6 different IBANs from all European countries, depending on what you need and why you need.
That's amazing. And I mean this in a complimentary way. It's ambitious and delivering capability, that's approaching what Revolut tries to do for foreign exchange and FX and fiat currencies, which is a game changer.
I've always kind of pitched Nebeus what I still do. I do it less right now because I probably don't need to anymore. I kind of used to pitch Nebeus as being the Revolut of crypto sometimes. And again, this was coming back from the goal of what we kind of wanted to achieve. We wanted to bridge cryptocurrencies and finance, which we were kind of doing. And hence I was explaining that, our goal is to be the Revolut of crypto. Right now, we kind of are, so I don't really need to use that anymore. So now I think it's enough of me just saying we're the finance app of crypto hodlers to explain what we are and what we're about. And we actually do so much more than Revolut right now, specifically on the crypto side. Revolut obviously do have crypto, but the main difference between us and Revolut is that Revolut, you can buy cryptocurrencies, invest in them, You cannot withdraw, you cannot send. You just invest, you can buy and sell, and basically like you can buy, see the price go up, sell. You can hodl. That's all you can do. With us, we're originally a cryptocurrency app, right? So you have that whole cryptocurrency ecosystem, and we came from a different angle. So Revolut came from the fintech and added the crypto. We came from the crypto and added the fintech. So that's the biggest difference for us.
That's a great description as well. You should have opened with that.
That's like when I talk to people, I usually ask like, what's your knowledge and level of crypto, and depending on their answer, I either start with the Revolut equivalent pitch because that's just easy for like people who like don't know cryptocurrencies. If they're basically like from the cryptocurrency world, then I straight away start with something more in depth and crypto focused.
Michael, been great having you on. Let's wrap up as we always do on our quick fire round. What podcasts are you listening to at the moment, or do you have on repeat?
So I watch and listen to a show called Bankless. That's they give a lot of, let's say, news on cryptocurrencies, fintech, all that. It's available on Apple Podcasts. And I also watch On the Brink, listen to On the Brink, which is again it's the same kind of podcast. Fintech, crypto, weekly news, updates, interviews, etc., etc.
What book are you currently reading at the moment, or would you recommend to our listeners?
For people who are watching this podcast, I'll show for people who are not, I'll say it. So I'm reading this specific book. I don't know if people will be able to see this, if their image is going to be inversed, but it's a book called Embedded Finance, and it's by Sophie Gibault. She's one of the co-founders of Fiat Republic, and it's actually a book on fintech. It's interestingly enough, it's not a book on crypto. It's a book purely on the fintech ecosystem as it is today, which for me is interesting because I obviously come more from the crypto side than the fintech side. So it's very cool to actually dive really deep into the fintech side and the fintech ecosystem. Although I am aware of all those companies and everything that's happening as well, but it's nice to actually like really read a book that's only focused on that, or focused more on that than on cryptocurrencies.
Other than Nebeus, what's your favorite fintech app?
Revolut. I am a super, let's say modern finance user, fintech user. I don't have any physical traditional banks. I have none. I have two banks, and these are my primary banks, and it's Revolut and it's N26. I have a few others, obviously, that I test in terms of, let's say, platforms and like user features and experience. But those are my main banks. So in terms of, let's say, app and usability and everything that, like how it's built, yeah, Revolut is definitely on the top of my list.
What's the best bit of life advice you've ever received?
I think maybe if I was like to dig deep in my past, one of the suggestions I received from one of my ex-bosses at a certain point concerning books and literature, which really caught my attention, and he used the words that I remember now. He told me to basically stop reading like junk literature, like junk books. I believe he called it something like that. Meaning that he was recommending me to read nonfiction primarily, right? So it's biographies, autobiographies, business books, like things that actually like really like give you world knowledge and experience of other people that you can actually mimic and basically learn from. Is instead of reading like, romance books and or something like that. Not that I used to read romance, but yeah, that's just a good example. So yeah, like that was like a really like interesting advice, and like the way he said it, like, and called all that, it's like junk literature, like resonated with me. I was like, wow, it's like that's powerful. Like people read these books and like they're considered to be like also great, and like so many people have like deep conversations about these books. But at the end of the day, it's true that like when you read like a story, like very like like some literature, it is going to give you like obviously knowledge and experience, and like especially like English language skills and or any other language skills. But nonfiction books and autobiographies is something that really you can feed off of and learn from at a very deep level, especially if you read them intrinsically and thoughtfully.
They're somewhat more actionable.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you, and hopefully speak to you soon.
The FML podcast is brought to you by Growth Gorilla. To find out how our marketing growth experts can boost your fintech's growth, head to growthgorilla.co.uk. And make sure to search for the FML podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Don't forget to click follow to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Growth Gorilla, thanks for listening.